I'm bringing back the triangle. We're gonna dig deeper into it because there's more to it. You know, the question is like, where the fuck is Priest in there? Because right after I finished recording the video, right, at the very end, you get a game like this. He pretty much at turn 6, he starts board clearing me uncontrollably. And emoting at the same time. Like the fucking smart ass that he is, you know. There's no other way to amplify the board clear besides fucking... the fuck up, asshole. Yeah, and I have to say shut the fuck up, unfortunately. You don't have to, like, play that one card with high self-esteem, though. You know? Degenerate asshole. Card he's right now. Like, there's actually no counters to Borklers, though. And Borkler number 3 that makes me concede. Haha, because what an interesting fucking game. Besides, Bull strong, and I fucking hate this game. This can happen if you give a one class like 8 wonderful Borklers. Massive Borklers, bro. Twisting Nether level nonsense. 8 of them. Why do you need that many for that one class? What the fuck is the point? Borklers are, by default, are ridiculously powerful already and ridiculously non-interactive. So the brain damage of Blizzard of just printing that shit to one class and making it the most hated class in Hearthstone right now, technically, besides Mage, I hate Mage. I think it's just completely waste of time class that has no ability to even play Hearthstone properly. Like, even when I played Secrets, right? I played a bunch of Secrets, and I didn't choose Mage. I chose Mage only to see how thick Mage is, you know? Not visually, but like how much armor it can generate, and I was able to generate like 50 armor. And now it's clear that this class just has to be deleted from the game. It's absolutely useless, and slowly it's starting to, you know, reach the bottom of the barrel, where it's not even relevant anymore. Technically next to Priest, but Priest simply doesn't have anything going on for it, or simply people don't know how to play it. I'm not sure. I'll still play my Drug Priest and reduce the win rate of Priest. Easy peasy, bro. But we're gonna have to talk about something way deeper than this. So I can improve what I've already talked about. Because this actually highlights a lot more problems that Hearthstone has than I thought initially. So there's these areas, but there's another secret area that when you rotate things, when you swap the positions of control, tempo, and aggro, you get something very interesting as well. So I'll get to that. But first we have to change this into like mana cheating, explosion of tempo, whatever the fuck you want. And then you have a 0 in the middle, because it costs 0 mana. Many things cost 0 mana. Boom, explosions. And if board clears cost 0 mana, that's ridiculous, bro. I don't even understand that. Or sometimes you can boost your board clears to deal a ridiculous amount of damage or spell damage, but that kind of went out of favor all of a sudden. Very interesting how that happens. And here you have reset the game moment. Yeah, I'll call it HP because you just go back to 30 HP with one card sometimes, with just a little bit of lifesteal. This wasn't even possible back in the day. Like, mana cheating, OTKs that like require a couple of cards. This stuff was not possible even in the game, but kept growing. these are problem points. Like, you actually want to tackle this shit as a game developer and remove it from the game as much as possible. Because people are going to pivot to that. It's like the easiest way to build the decks by finding these cheat codes, basically. And the most important thing is the cat formation, control tempo, and aggro. Cat. It's very difficult to tell which one counters what. It's not your typical rock, paper, scissors idea, because I'm not sure if you can easily, with control deck, you can just beat aggro. I think aggro actually beats control. Control sometimes beats tempo, but sometimes things flip the other way around. You know, but technically I would say it goes this direction. It's my personal take, okay? So I still have no idea, but like, yeah, tempo gets killed by control because tempo is just too slow to deal with late game, right? And then tempo is fast enough to beat down aggro and has enough Borklers to also shut down aggro. When I was playing secret decks, it's technically considerably tempo, and some of them were able to actually shut down token druids, so that's a big deal. But we're gonna dig a little bit deeper here. Let me just shrink this text. I want to perfect the whole thing, because this is a long-lasting visualization of what's going on. Now, in the middle points, so again, you have control, tempo, and aggro. In the middle points, it's kind of like in between. All right? So, okay, this is just gonna be the word card. This square thing. I'm trying to do like a Yu-Gi-Oh style oval shape. You get it. That's a card. 3, 2, 3 cards, and you deal ridiculous amount of damage. That's an OTK, I would say. It doesn't have to be 30 damage. It just has to be ridiculous amount of damage. So that's it. That's the whole thing. Now, let me explain it from aggro to tempo, like clockwise from here, how this thing goes. And what kind of decks run these cards? Let me just remind you what's going on, because we're going to go one step deeper into this. There's one layer that I found very fascinating because of excess amount of Borklers. It actually allows a different type of deck to exist. All right? The Whirlpool, Light Bomb, this, like, how many Borklers Priest even has anymore? This is insanity, bro. We're gonna count all of them. All of the Borklers. Obviously, at the start of the game, Priest can't do shit. But the moment turn 4 hits, all of a sudden they can do whatever they want. And apparently that's not good enough to make a deck. Which is pretty sad, but it is what it is. It still tilts the shit out of me. So they can silence massively, which is ridiculously powerful. It's something they need to run in their decks because it's too easy, right? They just automatically run this card because it's tradable. It's too easy to use whenever you feel like it. Holy Nova is number 2. This is number 3, and I will definitely count this. I'm not afraid, guys, that this is not really playable at the moment, perhaps. Because especially after the new elemental is given to us, and now the mini set is released, once the elemental keeps just healing stuff, like this is going to become a Borkler. This is going to be a playable card, guys. Overheal is not a fucking joke. So 3. Already at turn 3, we have 3 possibilities for Borklers. 4 or 5. 6, 7, 8, 9. Is that it? Are we tripping balls? Have I not crafted something? 9, 10. 10 Borklers. That means you can literally build a deck filled with Borklers and absolutely nothing else. Because why the fuck would you care? I can do that right now, I think. Literally just Borklers and nothing else. I would even love to play one game out of that. Because it will be a pretty interesting example. Now, not every Borkler is gonna work, I don't think. But it's just a funny meme, and I have to. I have to meme hard. Obviously, you can also discover Borklers, so that's cool. You run discover cards. Wait. Ah, you only get 20. Shit. Well then, we're gonna discover a lot of stuff, right? Sunken City's rotating, I don't want to craft this. In fact, Discover will allow me to discover more Borklers, even though we don't need that. Or discover a win condition of some kind. I'm specifically hoping to discover Borklers, though. Is that it? That one? Wait. We can choose which Borklers we like more. Alright. I mean, if anyone plays minions... Minions? I ran out of ideas, to be honest. Where would you put Priest? In here? I said Tempo. That's not Priest. And it's gonna be very fucking weird when you're gonna find Priest in a very similar spot, because we're gonna find a lot more decks. Anyways, but these are like very extreme cases that, like, what the fuck even Blizzard is thinking anymore? Holy shit. Because even this is ridiculous. This is already like nerfable, that the first thing you think about, if the deck is even playable, you nerf it. You nerf these sort of cards. So starting from here, we have, you know, the highlight of Cultivation. And I know, I've explained most of the stuff. But the reason why Token Druid is powerful is because this costs 0 mana. This is really powerful, but this is powerful not just because it costs 0 mana, but the effect is to buff the entire board to a ridiculous amount. It gives minions attack. It gives minions the ability to, well, hit your face a lot harder, or twice as harder, or find lethal damage, because you do chip damage, like 10 chip damage, and all of a sudden you have 20 damage that you can do the next turn with this card. It gets pretty annoying, right? And cards like these exist, and they create our aggro decks. The reason why Paladin is an aggro deck is, well, first of all, it has these massive buffs that it can do for 0 mana. So it's kind of leading towards mana cheating as well. It's combination almost. It might even be worse, you know, if the bonus thing, the win condition of like buffing the entire board is also can be mana cheated. That is ridiculous. That is fucked up, man. But it's not necessarily massive buff, right? That wins the game. What wins the game is this fucking card. And this is the thumbnail of the previous rant. I just zoomed in into this guy, because that's how I feel when my opponent plays this card. I instantly lose. Turn 4, I have to concede. I have to go now. There's no fucking way. If they have 3 minions and they play this card, they win. 3 minions. This is Eternal Savage Roar. Every single thing they do now is a Savage Roar buff that also sticks around forever. Thank you very much. Savage Roar is still a playable card to this day. Maybe it's 2 mana. It's a playable card. To to this level of power creep. But this is 3 of them stitched together, and you just play it as 1 card. Thank you very much, Blizzard. It's the worst fucking thing I've ever seen. Entering core. Core this year. It entered the core. Congratulations. Technically 2023, right? Enters the core. So, if you can massively buff your board, that's your win condition as aggro player. You make your board very sticky, you buff the board massively, and all of a sudden you win the game. No questions asked. Not many classes can do that right now. This is very actually rare occurrence. Even Hunter, the class that wants to, you know, attack you in the face a bunch of times, they notoriously don't have the ability to buff their minions. Until Bananas showed up, and now it's a little bit closer, until this showed up, and now it broke the fucking game instantly. This card. And no one complains about this because they don't even know how to fucking play aggro right now. I do. I beaten many fucking people with this card. And even Zeddy's questioning of like, how does this work? Well, you don't fucking know when you play control decks, do you now? You just don't know. You have to have like ridiculous amount of experience to actually comprehend what's going on in this game. And then you have OTK finisher with 1 card. Yeah. It's pretty fucking cool. Just need to double this or boost the spell damage. Luckily, it's not a fucking arcane spell. Holy shit, but this is. Vipes your board out. Technically, Hunter is capable of transitioning to tempo or slight control. You know, because it has OTK potential to brim. I'm not gonna like map out anything, but it's kind of fun to do that. Like if I try to. But like color coding is like very difficult, so I'm not gonna do that. Like where the classes range, it's hard to tell. I could say like here, right? I could say the Hunter goes in these directions. This is new, by the way. This is so fucking new that they just have Borklers. By the way, it sort of goes here. So if I start mapping out classes, they would look like that, I guess. They don't. Hunter doesn't have control, or they actually have a little bit of reset the game now, which fucking weird. That is weird, bro. All right. Yeah, but yeah, they do have the massive buffs. That's what you need. This card literally single-handedly enables aggro. You don't need anything else. Just massively buff, especially the attack of monsters. What else do you need? Just like this card single-handedly is just a good fucking card that you put in almost every single deck that Demon Hunter has. As long as you summoning tokens on the board of some kind. So, that's that. We have covered this extensively. And this is sort of self-explanatory. Again, I've showed you guys the idea. And we can take a picture of that. Not a big deal. The idea is Hunter has collateral damage. A fucking garbage card. That nobody wants to play, again, but I see it as a ridiculous card. If things were not ridiculously OP and people were not pushed into the corners of this card game, we would see more of this. The corners of the card game means we're here in these very, very exaggerated things. Alright, we're playing ridiculous aggro, ridiculous control, and some people know how to play tempo. Some, like, not everyone knows how to play this. But those who do, I would imagine they do pretty well. We're gonna get to that. All of these things. So, mana cheating, though. What do we do for mana cheating? What is the most notorious mana cheating besides Garden's Grace? Fucking Prismatic Beam. Everything above here apparently is mana cheating now. Everything that's reaching towards 10 mana has to be cheated somehow. Technically, notorious mana cheating comes from Rogue in the form of that legendary, but I don't have it, so I don't get to have a picture. Okay. Yeah, Valorok. Anything else, though? Technically, it's like the most notorious thing that you can do. Is this 4-mana thing? There's not a lot of spells to actually cast. I wonder if it enables more than just like 777s and this. Or like jackpots. It's hard to tell. Another notorious mana cheating, which probably has to be addressed, is fucking Clash of Thunder. This single-handedly, again, creates a deck that you know very well, but apparently it's also an OTK card. Yeah. It's a mana cheating Borkler. Yeah, that should exist. I forgot about that. And we obviously have to do Hollow Hounds as a game reset card. There's so many weird things being invented here that, I mean, I can barely keep up with my brains. Most people don't give a fuck, they just copy and paste the deck. But I try to keep up to understand what the hell is happening right now in the game. And how the game is getting abused left and right. It's like some kind of demon portal that's going on. This one is like super self-explanatory, and it's sort of new. But you can imagine this was possible, at very least. It was possible throughout the entirety of the game, but not as notorious as like they just found it and they just went with it. They went start fucking printing those cards left and right because like, oh my god, this is so crazy, guys. This breaks the game. I like breaking the game. They just like, it's almost like developers are so bored they love that shit. You know, they don't want to spend time thinking of how cards should work or spend time just nerfing cards in general. They just want to break the game in various different directions. Who fucking cares, right? They don't even care about money, bro. That shit doesn't bother them at all. They just know how to make money, and then the game is just like a little toy to mess around with, and that's it. That's the fucking mentality of these people. I'm not impressed, to say the least. So what is the tempo deck? It's the most complicated one, I understand. But when you type in Borklers, all minions, right? This has to say to all enemies. This has to not touch your minions that much. So basically, Plague DK is one of those tempo decks. Not only it relies on this card, but it also relies on this card because it comes out very cheaply. So it's sort of in this direction, right? So we have DK also relies on Borklers a lot in resetting the game. So you have Blood DK going this direction. Then you have Unholy going tempo direction. And Frost going somewhat aggro direction, but not really. It's a weird one. But there is a massive buff you can make. So Unholy can go aggro as well. So I think DK just kind of covers this ground. But mostly Plague DK is trying to do this right now. And Plague Decay is the most popular one. So it's board clearing the shit out of you, summoning these to board clear you again. It's just waiting, basically, stalling the game. And can summon Hollow Hound. I'm not sure why they not play enough Hollow Hounds. It seems fucking stupid, in my opinion. Do they not play like this, either? I don't know, man. Plague Decay is so weird. They go in all in on plagues, but like you don't actually have to do that. You just have to clear the board a bunch of times. Install the game. Then plagues are automatically more powerful. So you have to find the fine balance. But yes, you can play with Unholy, you can play Aggro. That's technically not tempo. So, I don't know. It kind of leans... Even though Blood Decay is trying to pretend that it's control, but it's actually just reset the game type of nonsense. Like, Blood Decay actually has no win condition. That's the most important part of control decks. You're going towards some kind of win condition, and not just, like, fatiguing your opponent. You're setting up for some kind of, like, burst insanity, or just you playing a card after a card and you're becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. You break your opponent eventually, because you have better resources than your opponent. I mean, Plague Decay is as much of a control deck as Blood Decay. Blood Decay just constantly resets the game until you just give up on playing the game. But sometimes, if they run out of board clears, you win. Because they just simply have no tools to do their own thing of any kind. Alright, so we figured that shit out. So tempo is sort of that. The best example of tempo is actually Paladin. Again, Paladin can play tempo and aggro ridiculously well. Basically, Paladin is like this. They're just masters of these two things, apparently. Especially now that they have all the Borklers in the world to do that. Alright. It fucking pisses me off. So, these two Borklers, just two Borklers, enable an entire tempo archetype to insanity. And for them, tempo is just summoning bigger and bigger dudes, basically. That's as much as they figured out so far. But it seems to be fine, as long as they keep resummoning this shit. They even have a reset the game card now, so that's fucking awesome. The more you get at least one card of like that, and just enables even more power level plays. They don't have OTKs, so that's cool. One weakness. But after Consecration printing such a ridiculous Borklers, it's insane. That had to be nerfed, and they're still powerful because they had to be nerfed, because they were powerful. Okay, so I didn't even craft this one. This is Titans. Holy shit, man. I don't even have this one, even though it's... Yeah, I think I disenchanted because I need a refund, bro. This wasn't even played, by the way. So there's no such thing as a control paladin right now. You can tell that much. But if we're talking about control, because that's the only thing left to talk about, we know Odin Warrior. We know that the moment I fucking said Odin Warrior, some fucking dude out of the graveyard just got resummoned into the battlefield to fight me and tell me how Odin Warrior sucks balls, man. Sometimes against this one deck, against like Warlock and stuff. And I'm like, just shut the fuck up, you know. We're literally talking that you're playing a toxic deck in the very extreme case. When you go to the extremes, things get boring. Things get very fucking repetitive. And I don't want to fucking even talk to you because you probably have brain damage anyways. And yet we had a very extensive conversation with two people who defended each other, apparently. I don't understand, bro. Odin is the most disgusting toxic card that deals 20 damage. Congratulations. I don't want to deal with this shit. On top of that, Warrior just resets the game over and over again and can do, you know, with massive Borklers, they can just armor up back up again. You know, might as well play this card in your stupid Odin deck. Just play all the Borklers. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be better off that way. Just buff it a little bit and all of a sudden it's a very viable card. I fucking hate this shit. How Warrior also has a lot of Borklers. Let's compare it to Priest. How many Borklers does Warrior have? I will include Whirlwind, even though it shouldn't fucking count, but in my world it does count. Whirlwind 1. Playstorm 2. 3. 3 Borklers. This fucking counts. 4. 4 Borklers, 5, because you have to consider all of them. All of these options you have to consider when you're doing this. I even forgot that this exists. 6. 7. This one, not so much. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, Warrior has even more than Priest. Warriors is even more fucking annoying. 11, 12. Amazing. And then a ridiculous win condition that I've never seen before. Even this is not being played. This is technically half Odin nonsense. But it can get silenced, I guess. It can get removed. It's a new thing that's going on in Hearthstone. Super removal. Banishment. I don't know, bro. And it cost 4 armor, bro. With this, it doesn't cost fucking anything. You just have to survive turn 8. What a big deal that is. Pisses me off, but here you go. So Odin Warrior exists, but what else is a control deck in that sense? Against Sargeras, like super simple idea. Also Lord Jaraxxus enables control decks, but Sargeras makes it ridiculously stupid. You just play it, and all of a sudden, you don't even have to hero power, you don't upgrade anything in your deck, necessarily. Like, the most basic control card is Lorthamor. This is super basic control card where you buff your entire deck. Entire rest of your deck. And technically turn into a tempo card, more likely, than a control card. But you basically buff yourself for the rest of the game. That's what control is all about. Like, even playing Reno or Highlander stuff is control. The more you buff yourself for the rest of the game is, that's what it's all about, right? Jailer was also sort of a control-ish, but it's more of a win condition oriented. It's very complicated to pull this off, but somehow it got nerfed, so I guess people did pull it off. It was nerfed to fucking oblivion for some reason, I don't know. Some degenerate stuff. They could have thought about it a little bit more when nerfing unplayable card. This was unplayable, it just had some weird combo potential. Fucking Jailer. Now, when it comes to Thaddeus, I mean, nothing should cost 0 mana like that. Nothing should have infinite effects, where it can just keep on reducing mana cost of infinite cards. Of course, it's a problematic card. I don't know why people desperate for me to talk about it, though. We don't give a fuck about this shit. About machine gun cards. Even though I talked about it, there's machine guns and snowballs. There's 2 different type of cards. And they're quite interesting, so I don't want to mess around with them too much. This is reset the game card. But yeah, you have these like Highlanders things that create control decks. This is a control card, technically. It makes you stronger, and eventually you break your opponent because you just simply became stronger during the game. It's very difficult. It can only be pulled off in late game, but that's the whole point of control decks. And I love that shit sometimes. Sometimes it's very cool. It's very cool to actually even know that stuff. Like relics is also control idea, right? You get stronger and stronger as long as you keep on getting your relics. I would like to play relics, actually. There's some tools to, like, duplicate some of your spells. Interesting stuff. You might even be able to return that shit to your hands. This bad boy. I don't know, it's interesting stuff. So there's a lot to explore. But this video doesn't end here. This video just kind of like wraps everything in a very satisfying way. So you understand what the fuck's going on. I just want to touch on Warrior and understand the Warrior identity. They played a little bit of somewhat aggressive stuff. They don't actually have Borklers that go one-sided. Except now they do. And it fucking pisses me off. Oh my, this is so disgusting. Oh my god. They have it. They have at least 1, 2, 3. Fuck! Holy shit. So, Warrior, alright. They can definitely reset the game the best. The best resetters of the game ever. Apparently they have a ridiculous win condition now. Yes, they can do that too. Can they play aggro? Maybe not so much. They don't quite have massive buffs, but because one card enabled the fucking aggro deck, now they can. Yes, they can do that too. I think Warrior is a little bitch right now in Hearthstone. Holy shit, man. And technically Odin is slightly OTK of a deck, right? It just goes straight face. Man, from the card, from the class that Zeddy was complaining about almost every single month, now it's the class that fucking ruining Hearthstone single-handedly with every single aspect of it. Holy shit, man. And it's just simple cards like these that completely destroy that. The sense of, like, control for your opponents when facing a warrior. I don't know, bro. There's just no mana cheating, I hope. I really hope, but besides those 2 Borklers, I mean 3 Borklers, there's one more, which is Trial by Fire, so they can play perfect tempo, these little fuckers. Perfect tempo. And aggro fairly well as well. Does Warrior can just play all 3 things. Bro. What the fuck is this shit? Well, it's a video now. That's what it is. This is a video now. Which thing is the best thing for Warrior? The dominator of Hearthstone, the master of all elements. This is so fucked up, man. I hate it so much. Normally, like, OTK is not gonna win you the game. Resetting the game is not gonna win you the game. These are win conditions. Tempo and aggro and on control, these are win conditions. You have to, like, reach this point, and the easier it is to reach this point, the easier it is to win the game. This is your exit strategy. Now, besides that, we're finally getting into that point where I'm gonna explain what the fuck is Priest with 10 Borklers. Not quite 13. What the f... Holy shit, man. But, 10. Okay. I think now there's a precedent of, maybe Warrior should just get deleted, actually. I'll wait for Mage to get deleted, but let's first delete Warrior. Because it's too much pressure, man. At least put him to jail. Put him to jail until... Don't give him cards, basically. For, like, 3 expansions. Don't give Warrior any cards. How about that? Because they're just masters of everything. I don't like that. Anyway, so Priest exists here. all the way here. Let's do it purple. What the fuck is that, right? It's almost like it's overshoot. It's a little bit of overshoot. But when you overshoot, something weird happens. Instead of playing tempo, you're still playing control. Everything just kind of flips, you know. So you have control here. And there's a specific dex for all of this stuff. Just you wait. I hope it works, but who knows. It works with the priest at least. Alright. And this becomes aggro. How the fuck control turns into aggro? Let me explain. It's not that complicated. Alright? So, if you, as a Borkler class, will receive too many Borklers, you can play a very special type of deck that just plays a bunch of Borklers. Yeah. But it's not tempo. Because you're controlling the board with those Borklers. Extensively. You're not quite resetting the game either. But you're sort of like leaning into this position. Technically, it's somewhere here. Because you need to reset the game, you need to survive, but who cares? Yeah, you have so many Borklers, they can be one-sided, they can be double-sided. Who cares anymore, right? Because you can clear the board so many times that you just play one card at a time. Yeah, one card just does ridiculous amount of things. So half of the way you are mana cheating and half of the way you're resetting the game. Constantly. And then what do you do? Well, you have to transition into this win condition where you just play a little bit of tempo and you win, right? You control until you just jump into the tempo. You just need a little bit of tempo. In a way, right? That means to play tempo, you need a little bit of control. But what Priest is doing is flipping this upside down because they have that many Borklers to just play control and then needs a little bit of tempo. Yeah. They just flip the script. Because it's so much easier when you can just play one card at a time. The only question is, does this work with everything else that I've mentioned? Does this actually flip the script? How do you play tempo with this? If you have many buffs, does that allow you to play tempo? Of course it does. But we don't have many examples of that. Back in the day, there was something called Zoo Warlock specifically, right? And Zoo Warlock, well, has a lot of buffs and sort of right now as well. But it's not really played right now. Like Imp Warlock. But back in the day, you would play stuff like this. You know, Direwolf Alpha, like small little buffs that add up together to make a sort of a tempo deck, almost. For me, most notorious card that I always want to highlight that still exists, fucking Raid Leader. And honestly, I think it's still playable, but you have to really fucking capitalize on those tokens. You have this pirate thing, but I don't think there's a class with too many buffs to be able to even pull this off. Like, we're talking about really extreme cases here. And I want to know which class is the closest. Technically, Paladin has to be the closest to, like, they have so many buffs, it's insane. And now with Wind Fury, they have this infinite weapon thing going on. Where they technically have to survive. They have to play tempo in a way. They have to survive a little bit longer than aggro players. And they just buff one card. But that's not exactly it. Back in the day, Druid had like more buffs as well. It feels like more board buffs. And I would sort of play all of them. They just don't print that shit. you know. Even like scenarios was one of those things. You flood the board, then you buff the board. Very simple stuff. So this sort of like playstyle is kind of dead. Even this. I would want to try it out as well. This is very interesting to explore. The board buffs. So Druid probably is the closest into like massively buffing the board. I know Death Knight has a little bit of that shit. But again, we're talking about an extreme case where there's a lot of cards like that. That make a completely different deck. You can make a tempo deck, apparently. I just don't know how it makes any sense. But in a way, like, for example, Druid doesn't have Borklers, right? So you can go lean into just flooding the board and buffing the board a bunch of times. And it's sort of doing that, but as an aggro style, right? It floods the board and tokenizes as much as possible and just pulls off that one buff. It doesn't, or two buffs, one or two. That's all they need necessarily. There's no real deck where you're just like constantly flooding with various minions. It doesn't have to be like tokens, with various minions, and then buffs that shit massively. Many times as well. So I'm not even sure how this would work, because even like discovering Borkler Priest takes a while, so you can imagine this is not something that's just gonna pop out of nowhere. But it also tells you that in order to win the game afterwards, you have to be aggressive, meaning that you have to also have reach. After you're buffing the board, your board can get cleared anyways, so you have to have reach in the end. This is not supposed to be enough most of the time. You're just kind of trading off, and then you're smashing your opponent to like 12 health, and you have a little bit of reach, a little bit of aggression to finish the game. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, this card is control, apparently. Explosion. I'm not even sure. Because it kind of belongs in this category, but also belongs in the category of just ridiculous cards. That sort of becomes stronger in the end of the game. And I will put it in a control thing, because that's where aggro belongs, right? That's when things... Maybe aggro like leeches off a little bit, but that is a very good example of this aggro token that's going on. You play aggressively to a certain point, and then you dump this massive fucking board flood out of nowhere. You can add Scourge into it as well. You played aggressively this whole time, and your opponent is not actually even expecting anything crazy to happen, but he just played one card that just flooded the board to insanity. This can also happen. And it's a good example. We're going to get to that. I'm just still looking for more board buffs. I don't think... It's such an not common thing anymore. Again, 2 is not enough. You have to have a lot. I think this more or less transition into hand buffing. You can hand buff this and that, and it summon copies of that monster. That helps. Because the minions having rushes, also like hand buffing them makes sense. So I would say this is a very interesting thing to explore. Anything tempo related is very complicated to understand until you build a deck properly, and then it's solved. So this is a question mark. Obviously, warrior is a question mark. Fucking triple threat warrior. What the fuck is this shit? Can you even do something in the middle that has all the 3 things? Right? I feel like this card is underestimated. I would have to play this more often. in this combo in particular. Let me show you guys. Where the fuck is it? Immolation Aura combo. Because it has 3 health, so might as well, right? Wonder how this would work. And in what kind of deck it works best. There's another card that buffs like this. So yeah, you have all the token stuff, like... I don't know, it's very hard. Because there's not enough cards potentially for this. We're gonna talk about this soon. I just want to know all the... There's a little bit of buff going on with Shadow Priest. Ah, this guy. This guy's interesting. This guy's sort of in that direction. Because it buffs itself. Interesting, yeah. And if you resummon a bunch of them, they're incredibly powerful. But it is just one minion, and it's very difficult to make it consistent. But it's sort of like that direction. If I'll try to do it, I'll try to do it with Druid. There's this one hand buff. There's not a lot, I don't think. It has to, like, strictly buff the board. Like that. That's close. You can give bubbles and buff it. Like, it appears every now and then, like, this massive buff that's going on. But it only, like, targets minions, specific minions. So it's not that crazy. You know, Blizzard is very scared of this one for some reason. But they're not scared of, like, massive Borklers that make the game longer and more fucking tedious. I don't understand, bro. Like, if you're breaking the game, at least break the game properly. So I hope Druid can actually break the game even more than just, like, summoning tokens. It can, like, summon sizable creatures. But then, you know, it just broke the game with a stupid dragon. So, who's laughing now, right? They just buff the dragon, hand buff the dragon, and just summon that shit. Maybe swarming also matters? Ooh, yeah. Swarming your opponent with special spells. That also kind of is a part of this whole thing. It's a part of Tempo, right? Like, Tempo wants to just explode on the board a bunch of times. But it's a different sort of Tempo. Yeah. Now I understand where things are going here. This is a very weird one. Because it almost like... Yeah, but just like it enables double-sided Borklers to create this. Normally on Tempo, you don't want double-sided Borklers. The same way here, it's double-sided of, like, buffs that can just summon minions instead of buffing the board. It's kind of double-sided, right? Multifunctional. Very interesting stuff we're unlocking here. So the final token, my friends, we have 7 minutes to finish this off. We need an aggro deck that also in the end becomes stronger. And our clue is, again, this card. You play a bunch of tokens, you just vomit your hand, but eventually in the end you're stronger with this card. It explodes even more, apparently. And sometimes you play shit like this to make the game last longer, but could you make a fucking Blood DK that, like, aggressive like this? I wonder, alright? With this stupid card. But I doubt it. It's supposed to be like a long-lasting effect, right? It's a very interesting... It's the only thing they have, basically, that accelerates the game. We have to look at, like, very big cards and how they could fit into aggro decks. And can they make an aggro deck stronger or like, accelerate something like that? Because this shit works. Shit that goes to the face enables aggro decks just a little bit more. And technically it's leaning towards OTKs, but these are like 1 cards. They're very big and do a lot of damage. So even though this is an example, this is more of an example for the token that finishes the game, right? It's hard to tell. The funny thing is, you would have multiple of these cards. You would quickly shift the game from aggression to just constantly obliterating your opponent's health total. Right? Aggression is just for you to jump into very control-y style of things. Like Flame Reaper is one of those cards where you, again, you just have an outer shell of aggression, but you still continue aggression, but with giant cards. Giant, very disgusting cards like that. Like this goes face. Anything that goes face basically is going to be in your like weird hybrid aggro deck. I think that's how it works, right? Anything that goes face, anything that deals damage at all. And this is still a question mark, but is something we have explored a little bit. Especially when even shit like this can do damage in the late game more and more. Lady Stina can do a lot of damage. You just need to buff it a little bit. I'm surprised this actually fell out of favor for a lot of people. You can now consistently gain Lady Astheno and shove it in your opponent's face. You just need to buff it a little bit. No, I think it is. I think it is in the Demon Hunter deck right now, right? Am I wrong? It's in some kind of different deck, actually. That's fucking weird, man. This card is disgustingly powerful. You just need to buff it a little bit. Or, like, hand buff it. Or copy and paste it sometimes. I don't know, bro. The fact that I don't have it makes it pretty sad, because I could probably pull off some pretty shitty stuff, man. Yes, I'm a little bit of a hoarder in this case. I'm trying to make sure that whatever I'm crafting is like super necessary for me. Bare essentials. Yeah, what if you play an aggro deck and then you do this and then you transition into like a very weird fucking style? But again, it's better if your aggro giants deal damage at the same time. This one kind of does. Like, there's a lot of dragons that deal direct damage. That's interesting. It has to progress. Like, something like this as well. Upgrading your hero power with these cards that are somewhat aggressive, and then you quickly shift into just obliterating your opponent with 5 attack hero power. At very least 5 attack. Holy shit, man. That one is in this category right there. It's a very weird type of decks that we're talking about, these purple ones. They like kind of like go beyond and return in this control metagame, right? Like you reach control and all of a sudden you're a much better control player than most control players because you upgraded your hero power successfully, or you enabled this stupid dragon. Or you did one of those things, but you played aggro this whole time, so you were able to like do pretty crazy stuff. So these are very weird decks, I'm not gonna lie. Obviously the Borkler Priest is fucking degenerate at this point. If they have like 10 of these, it's insane. It's like having 10 of these, like 10 Highlander cards, and you just plug the most aggressive ones, and all of a sudden you have this weird deck. Obviously you can't have like super expensive cards. Only control can play expensive cards like extensive tempo, or I mean Borklers. Okay, so we obviously have this, and this has been played plenty of times. Not sure about this, but like Hydralodon also. You know, like, these aggressive cards. They make for slightly different curve for an aggression deck. Or they can like leech from this point. So control can leech from having a lot of Borklers of their own. I guess it's more like a leech thing, right? So if there's a board flood or there's a good board buff, like tempo can leech from this source. Or sometimes can leech so much that it turns into a deck of its own. I don't know. I'm just gonna look at all these big guys. I don't think Paladin has aggressive, except for Tyrion. And I'm surprised Tyrion is not being played in, like, aggro decks. This is being played. This is even fucking better, to be honest. But Tyrion also should be played. Not Tyrion, my friends. What? In aggro. There's nothing with Priest. Priest doesn't fucking play aggro at all. What is Priest identity? Besides whatever the fuck this is. All the way to Oblivion, bro. But let's just say it's as high as Paladin. Definitely can reset the game. Fairly consistently, maybe not as consistently as Warrior. I don't think it has OTK potential at all. I don't think it deals damage. Is that it? I'm sure there's a little bit of aggro. Priest going on. Is there no even mana cheating at all? Maybe a little bit. There's not much. This Priest identity kind of sucks right now. And there's no win conditions either. So without that, you can't do shit. There's one thing that I wanted to talk about for the end of the video is Rogue, because Rogue is like very popular. And it's getting more and more powerful, I guess. And it's basically mana cheating class, right? Like it's just bouncing around, summoning a bunch of spells for very cheap. That's where it is. It's not like it's a special identity or anything. It's just, that's what it is. So, Rogue would go this direction, I guess. Quite a lot. The mana cheating is just Rogue's identity. Nothing you can complain about. I'm not really upset about Rogue, but, like, leaning too much into mana cheating, it gets a little bit cringe. Especially when your fucking mana cheating is a bunch of Battlecry bullshit or Death Rattle bullshit. Like, this is too much at this point. Even Wishing Well is annoying, but this one is, like, super fun. And I completely understand it's very difficult to grab the coins from things. So I'm okay with that. But mana cheating on Rogue, like, just notoriously annoying shit. This is just literally their identities. Literally fucking live here. In this bubble. Fucking corrupted this whole thing. Potentially Warrior corrupted this one. It's Warrior's identity. Which is weird, because, like, even though Warriors control class, like, what win conditions do they have back in the day? Odin literally saves Warrior as a control class. I don't know, that's how it feels like. Well, let's pretend. Apparently, Hunter is what comes up now for OTKs. Fucking Hunter, bro. Hollow Hounds, yeah, resets the game as fucking Death Knight thing. I guess Death Knight is kind of like bluish. Undead. Tempo or aggro? Aggro is definitely druids. That's just their thing. I went legend with druids for the first time. And I'll keep it that way for now. What is tempo class? The most notorious tempo class? For me, technically, fucking Shaman. I played Shaman for a very, very long time. Has very interesting stuff. And in just enough Borklers like Lightning Storm and the new one, the Primordial Wave, I want to give it to Shaman. The fucking reward of greatest tempo. Let's go Shaman, boys. 6 most notorious classes as well. I don't think you can upgrade this that much more. This is some crazy shit. Yeah, you can put pictures for these, like, token things, but... there's not a lot of space for that. I'll still do it, because I want to fucking finish the whole thing. So you have those tokens, right? The cat's tokens. The leech. Or, like, twisted effects, in a way. And I'll put examples of that. Probably need more space. Yeah, your stupid children's card game is more complicated than you thought it is, isn't it? Way more complicated. Now, why did I switch from Shaman to Druid all of a sudden? It's not like Druid is a tempo class, right? Because it doesn't have Borklers. But maybe I just like the game faster even. Or maybe I'm slightly aggressive. I still fight for the board, and technically this is an eternal Borkler. It's hard to tell, bro. It's really hard to tell why I'm fucking playing Druid, to be honest. I guess I like the mana cheating as well. Mana ramping. So I guess game became more aggressive, and that's what wins me the games. And what makes it more interactive. I guess I turned from tempo to aggression, guys. I'm so sorry about that. It's probably because my fucking board gets cleared way too many times, so I gave up on tempo. And tempo gets destroyed by control. And nobody plays tempo to destroy aggro anyway, so... potentially I just fucking caved. Who knows, man? I had to read Legends somehow, and that's what I did. The last thing I did is Druid. And it's kind of cool. But there's more to explore about Druid class, so potentially I just did that for a bit. It's not like I was playing Druids when I was making these videos. So I can't tell you guys. It's just my favorite class at the moment. Anyways. Okay, so this is going to be the staple for aggro token thing. Because you can choose to either flood the board or buff the board. That is like super powerful stuff. Being able to choose. With this, you can choose, but it's ridiculously powerful. And these are somewhat common enough to make a whole fucking deck. And with tempo... oh, wait, no, that's the tempo thing, actually. You can choose. Okay. And with aggro token... I've decided the thing on this one. Is there anything cooler than that, though? Rogue doesn't have anything... Luck's pretty cool. But it doesn't, like, go anywhere with that. So, yeah, Shaman does just not aggro in any way. Lord Jaraxxus, let's go, bro. It's the best way to damage your opponents. Technically, you know, it's 3 damage every single turn past this point. But you would just play Sargeras anyways. I'll put this because it's just a very interesting card. It enabled the whole fucking deck. The whole aggro thing. And it relied on this card, specifically, to just freeze the entire board. So it sort of, like, helps you clear the board, helps you defend your minions in a way, and just reaches even more to the face. Like, it does so many things. But that's what these giant cards are supposed to do for the aggro archetype. Alright. Yes, I made things more complicated. But that's how we roll. I had to put Priest somewhere, and it inspired the whole video, so... see you guys next time.